Unscripted CEO?
So it's been an interesting time. I think I had that classic situation just after school where I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. And I mean, it's just, where do you go from there? I think there's such a gap between finishing school and now trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. So I was introduced to the world of online, specifically website development, and I started my first business at the age of 19. And when I say business, I won't really call it a business because it's freelancing. I mean, there's no business structure. You just do what you need to do. And that was also my first introduction to digital and online and everything that went with it. But I mean, I spent a lot of time doing that, and ignorance is bliss. So I would spend 3 months really working my ass off, and then for 3 months I wouldn't do anything and just go drilling or whatever. And I quickly realized I didn't want to spend that much time behind the computer. It was just not my passion. And one of my clients at the time, they started a brand new restaurant, and the guy asked me to maybe do website development on the side and jump into this restaurant and get more involved with traditional marketing and the event and all of that. And I thought it's a great opportunity. At the time, obviously I was living with my parents, so I had very little overhead, if any. And I made a deal with them. By that time, I think I was 21, 22, where they said they're not going to pay me anything for the first year to see how it goes. Also gives me the opportunity to, figure stuff out. And then after the first year, we can make a deal and they're going to pay me, and, happy days. And I mean, that went very well. We really got those guys off the ground, and they were packed weekend after weekend. And after the first year, I thought, I couldn't wait. I was so excited to make a deal with them and really become part of their business family. And it just so happened that they said, you know what, thanks for spending a year here, but we are now off the ground and we actually don't need your services anymore. And that was also the first time where I was introduced to the dog-eat-dog world of business and how cruel it could actually be. I mean, there's just no emotion. I was so distraught. It was one of the worst things ever. But luckily enough, again, very little overhead, so I could just continue. And not long after that, a friend of mine, and we're still very good friends to this day, they also had a restaurant. They rebranded and they renovated, and they said, listen, we saw what you did there, don't you want to help us out? And I mean, to this day, we're still very good friends. And I thought, okay, great, let's do that. And I mean, we had a ball of a time again. I had a lot of fun there. So it's a lot of marketing and events. We did big events with some of the biggest artists in the country. And I was there for about a year. We had a great relationship, and it was one night that I actually met my girlfriend there as well, which I'm still dating. But it was one night where I saw a friend that I haven't seen him in years, and he told me about a job that he was busy with abroad. We worked on the cruise ships. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I will never in my life do that. I mean, it sounds horrible. But he said, what he did on the cruise ship, he actually worked for a company called Park West. At the time, they had art galleries on more than 100 cruise ships. So they were literally one of the biggest art dealers in the world. And that was, it's a 100% sales gig. And I thought to myself, with my portfolio and what I wanted to achieve, yes, of course, you've got the aspect of online and then marketing and events. But the one thing that I lacked was sales. I really needed to understand sales, the psychology behind it, why people make different decisions, etc., etc. And I thought, okay, cool, let me go and do this. And of course, at the time you earn dollars. It's because you work in international waters, there's no tax. So at that point I was 25 years old and made a shitload of money. It was epic. I remember the first weekend I was on the ship. It was Saturday and it was fantastic. And the auctioneer actually came to me and said, "Why are you still in your cabin?" And that's when I realized there's no weekends. You literally work 7 days a week, 12-hour days, 5 or 6 months on end, depending on how long your contract was. But that was an incredible experience to see how the guys abroad in the international market, how they actually sell. And after a year, I came back and I thought, okay, great, let me implement a lot of what I've just learned in the South African market. I think we can add a lot of value here. and came back with a lot of dollars. I thought to myself, I have now arrived at the age of 26, and I mean, you can just imagine. And that's when shit really hit the fan. So I went down to Cape Town, started an events company, and in a matter of 6 months, I literally lost every cent that I've ever made. And that's absolutely hit rock bottom. But now I can say it was the best thing that ever happened to me, all the lessons that came out of it. And as I said, within 6 months, I went from having a lot of money running this events company to literally broke, where I physically cried myself to sleep for the first the night after, and I actually had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next? And I found a lot of people in Cape Town, because I knew a few people, but not as many as I obviously know in Gauteng. And there was one guy, obviously I wanted to stay in marketing and events and all of that, and one guy said, great, he's got a job. Now this was literally the Saturday morning, and he said, great, you can start Monday or Tuesday. So jumped in my car, went there, and on my way there I realized, but I'm actually driving to sort of the manufacturing area of Cape Town, the industrial area rather. And I got there just to find myself literally being handed power tools and protective gear and all of that. And I came to realize they don't do events, but they actually build bars and all of that for these specific events. So I literally went from running a business, an events company, to working in a manufacturing facility in a matter of 5 days. And I'll tell you, that was just the most bizarre thing ever. I mean, at the time I thought, okay, well, I'll just work here. I've absolutely no money. I still need to get back to Pretoria. So let me do this for the next 5 years. And I mean, I don't really need to explain that in more detail. But luckily enough, after about 2 weeks, they said they really need somebody in Pretoria. And I thought, great, that's my ticket out of here. Let me take a flight and come back to Pretoria. And I'll never forget the first day that they had an event up here. We went to set it up, where we build the bars and all of that. And that evening at around 1 o'clock, we had to go and fit, break down and put everything back, take it back to storage. And when I got there, it was actually a party for SAB, and I knew all the guys that were at that event. And they asked me, what the hell are you doing there? And I told them, I failed, and I'm currently building bars for these sort of events. And that was, I can tell you, I mean, I call it an ego death. But again, one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I realized, holy shit, I don't want to do this anymore. I just think I have a lot more to offer with my knowledge and my experience and all of that. And that was it. That's when I said, okay, I'm done with that. And it wasn't long afterwards where I picked up the phone, and now I'm back in Pretoria. I'm phoning a lot of people that I know in the industry, again, marketing and sales and events. That's really my specialty. I always wanted to stay true to my passion. And luckily, I come from a family. They never gave me any financial, they never sponsored anything. I started from absolutely scratch. But they always said, whatever you do, as long as you follow your passion and you enjoy it. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but that is just the reality of it. You spend half of your life working. And that's how that went down. So I picked up the phone, couldn't get a job anywhere. And there was one day, I would never forget it, when my mom came home. Obviously, I stayed with them. I had absolutely no money. And my mom came home from work, and she said, what the hell's going on with you? And that was absolutely the worst moment of my life. And I just told her, for the first time in my life, I absolutely have no idea what to do. I've phoned everybody. I've done everything I could. I just don't know what I'm going to do. Especially at that point in time, you think it's the worst thing ever, and it was at that time. And that same day, late in the afternoon, one of my friends phoned me. We haven't spoken in quite some time. Then we're now very good friends, and he said, listen, I heard you back in Pretoria. I urgently need a marketer. And he does kitchen manufacturing, now running a very successful business. And I thought, holy shit, please, can I come and market your company? Tell me, let me learn everything I can about kitchens. And there we go. And he offered me, I think at the time, 20,000 Rand, which was a shitload of money. And I was with him for close to a year. And in that year, other people started phoning me to say, listen, I heard you back in town, can you help us with marketing? Can you help us with marketing? And it wasn't long before 12 months, I said, okay, cool, I'm going on my own because, you know, there's a need for the service that I can provide. And now putting everything together, the sales experience, the online, and moving all the marketing into digital, because that's where South Africa was at the time. And that's where Leo Marketing started. We started with 3 clients, 4 clients, 5 clients, obviously as a one-man band, and worked bloody 12-hour days, 7 days a week. That's just what it took. And now I believe we are one of the fastest growing small marketing agencies in the country. We launch 1 client every single day, and we're incredibly blessed and just fortunate about how this whole thing panned out. And the big lesson I learned, of course, never ever think you've arrived, because that's usually when shit hits the fan. So yeah, that's my story, that's my background. I'm sharing this with you guys because I want to be vulnerable. I want you guys to know who I am, because I also want to connect and know who you guys are and what's happening inside your business.